Hi, thank you all for joining us today for our panel, Cyprus Focus, how art foundations, non-profits, and artist-run spaces are shaping the art scene. Let's begin with a little bit about ourselves. My name is Evagoria. I'm a curator, arts writer, and a researcher working between Cyprus and the wider Mediterranean with a focus on infrastructures of care, para-institutions, and phenomenology. My work often deals with how cultural ecosystems emerge from the gaps rather than systems, and are tuned to context more than anything, investigating how art participates in the process of decontextualization. Next to me is Evagoras. Evagoras is the co-founder of SIC and president of the board of the artist organization Phytorio, Visual Artists Cyprus. Then we have Maria. Maria is the director of CVAR Foundation. And we have Katerina, who's the director of MeMeraki Artist Residency. Thank you all for coming to the panel. Okay, so beginning, let's just try and discuss with each other our takes on the art world. So Evagora, as I said, is the co-founder of the newly founded artist-run space SIC in Nicosia. If you haven't visited, please go ahead. While he's the president of the artist organization Phytorio, one of the largest standing grassroots initiatives in Nicosia. Evagora, how has the art scene changed since Phytorio was established? And what gap did SIC initially try to fill in the local scene?
Thank you so much for organizing this panel and inviting us here. It is super exciting to see the fair and like you see the scene through somebody else's eyes in a way, and this has been super refreshing. And I want to talk first a bit about the Phytorio Artists Association, which was created in 2006, and it now has over 120 members. It runs as an association, so there is a membership model, and our members are visual artists, theorists, and curators who go through a process of registering, and everyone has sort of a certain stakes in the game of the association, so everyone needs to contribute in one way or another. And this is the model we are running. Our main goal is to advocate for artists' rights, and this is a sort of a long battle, never-ending. And in answering your question about how the art scene has changed, since 2006, a lot of steps have been taken to grant certain rights to artists. And now that we see a lot of political willingness to engage in this matter because of the newly established Deputy Ministry of Culture here in Cyprus. It's not always successful or easy, but our work is to advocate, basically. And within the same method of working, which is artist-driven, I would say. I have also co-created SIC Contemporary Culture, along with Panagiotis Michail, who couldn't be here today because of a last-minute family emergency, unfortunately. Panagiotis is an artist, so we really wanted to respond to what is happening here in a way that, again, puts artists and their work at the forefront, and basically to create an institution, let's say, that focuses on commissioning work and on helping nurture ideas and long-term projects. And this is what we have been doing in the past year. Yeah.
Phytorio, for those that don't know, is also currently on the forefront on the issue of the artist establishment of the artist identity for social purposes, for social work purposes. And SIC has an incredibly interesting program of cross-disciplinary events, which also is something that I think Maria with CVAR, they also share. Maria Efstathiou is the director of CVAR Foundation, a historical cultural institution, navigating the space between heritage and contemporary engagement in Cyprus. So, Maria, as someone leading a foundation rooted in cultural heritage, how do you see the role of foundations evolving to respond to the contemporary urgencies in Cyprus, especially in terms of supporting artistic experimentation rather than just preservation?
Okay, so there is a number of institutions in Cyprus. CVAR, I wouldn't say we nurture the creativity of the artists as people, but we do create more diverse events in the sense of having exhibitions within the artifacts of the collection. Repeat the question, please.
No worries. Yeah, basically, it's about the contemporary urgencies in Cyprus and the experimentation rather than preservation.
The urgencies, I think everyone would agree, is a matter of financing and a matter of finding another model of financing. And I think we're a bit behind in that, in the sense that we need to move faster in order to establish a new financial model. Because the main obstacle in institutional art and culture is the financing and how much you can do with the money that you have, with the money that you're able to raise, with the money that you're given by the state, etc., which doesn't allow for big programs. And I think it's something that all institutions in Nicosia, at least from the ones that I know, have. But I'm excited to see the institutions in Limassol and the excellent work that PSI is has started doing. I'm excited to see the development of the museum in Larnaca and how that will play out and how that will go. And I would like to see more grassroots organizations in Paphos, actually, and everywhere. But in Paphos, I think it's more important to see it there than anywhere else.
I think that for anyone that might not know a lot about the ecosystem of Cyprus, the vast majority of artists and artisan spaces are centralized in Nicosia. Then we have big new initiatives in Limassol and slowly beginning to see a lot of spaces in Larnaca and Paphos. I think one of the most critical issues that exactly we have to face is the financing, because in Cyprus we are mostly dependent on public fundings and not private fundings. But as Maria said, this is slowly beginning to change, hopefully, which is something I think that Katerina also probably suffers from as a residency. Katerina, as I said, runs MeMeraki residency, and just coming back to Cyprus as a practicing artist, Katerina, what did you feel was missing when you started Meraki?
Well, it's important to understand that I do come from a perspective of an artist. I'm definitely not in it to make money. It's a stupid business plan. No one that's in it makes money, but my personal need, it was quite selfish actually. I found that after 2 solo shows in Limassol, I had nothing else to say. I was found in front of my canvas and there was nothing. I had to then leave, being abroad for 25 years, I had to then leave to go out, and I still have to keep leaving to go out to be fed with art, music, theater, inspired discussions, all the stuff that any cosmopolitan city has. So because I'd been traveling for 25 years, I thought, I don't want to travel anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them here. So I set up MeMeraki Artist Residency, which I kind of copied from my experience at, I got a scholarship for Skowhegan Art Residency in Maine, which for me was a groundbreaking experience, both career-wise and art-wise. And it was a phenomenal experience. And so I started modeling, albeit in much, much smaller scale, because Skowhegan can take up to 60 artists at a time. You know, I can take 6 to 8. So, you know, but the idea behind it is the same. It's to share process. It's all about the process. It's not about the end product. It's all about free experimentation. The model is based like we pay them a fee, we pay for their tickets, we give them a place to live, we give them workspaces, travel, so it costs a lot of money. And it also, it costs a lot of money. Funding is not enough, but by any stretch of the imagination. And I have to do the same application for funding as someone is doing for an exhibition. Even the maximum, which is what we've gotten this year, we've gotten the maximum, but it still doesn't even scratch the surface. And I think what's lacking big time is art in the education system and in society. Not only art and theater and music, like worldwide you have, okay, in New York, you have free concerts in Brooklyn Park for the people, free concerts. And we're talking about big names, PDD, et cetera, et cetera. In London, we have, in Regent's Park, we have Shakespeare in the Park for free, for the people, with a lot of huge names playing. And the government has to invest long term. Nothing's gonna happen in 10 years. Nothing is gonna happen in 10 years. They have to invest long term into education and giving the people free art, free music, without the pressures of being commercialized, for supporting the artistic practice and not necessarily the end product. Like patronage in the previous talk, they were talking about patronage. We need something like that. We need the private sector to support the arts. And for the private sector to support the arts, the public sector has to say that it's important, or else it's, so I don't know if I answered the question, but.
No, you did. You did very well. I think that one of the issues that we always forget to consider when we're talking about Cyprus is the matter of accessibility. We remain an island. We're not in the mainland with everybody else. We feel very European, but at the same time, we are an island in the sea alone. So I think one of the biggest issues that you're addressing right now is accessibility as well. Access to all these things can be very costly in Cyprus just because we're here. And
there is a lot of European funding for governments to apply, for museums, for free. There's a lot. I wish I could apply for them, but there's a lot. You know, someone has to do their homework.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that we are trying to push, and I think Evagoras can speak better on this as a director of the Phytorio, is this, how we engage with the government and how we are forcing them, slowly, forcing them is a strong word, but you get what I mean. We strongly try to pursue them, to pursue these opportunities.
Well, it has gotten better, don't get me wrong. From the time we've started to now, like when I first started and we applied, we spoke to the government, they didn't have a category for a residency, and we started in 19. You know, they did not have a category for a residency. I had to apply under something else. So things have changed, and they have started giving more funding to the hosting side of things. So
yeah, that's also a big issue, the issue of definitions. I think that this is a good lead to ask, what does define an art institution in Cyprus? And how do we see an art institution, especially with the local context?
Well, what kind of institution are you talking about? Are you talking about college? Are you talking about residency? Are you talking about museum? What kind of art institution?
Well, I think it's a broader question in the sense that all these things that you're mentioning are institutions. So we have to consider how do they function and in what ways.
Yeah, sorry. I think if we sort of focus on the non-profit sector, which is sort of what unites us here, there is a certain expectation and a certain history that comes with the way the non-profit sector works, and this is what has become increasingly difficult to navigate post the 2013 economic collapse. So right now we are sort of in the aftermath of that, and we're trying to find new ways of relating with both audiences and sort of renegotiate what the communities are for art, who belongs in them, and sort of, yes, how do you make space for more inclusivity? So actually, it's quite a fascinating moment to be in, I feel. There is sort of a lot of new things happening, and there is this problem of the different tempos or temporalities in which we need to operate as non-profit spaces. So yes, there is this lack of connection between spaces in the private sector, the government and the private sector, and this is very tricky to navigate. So it's up to, as a scene now, to sort of find the ways to make these links, I think. Yeah.
And I think we're managing it actually quite well right now. I think that people are moving past their comfort zone, and we're getting into other ways of collaborating, especially in terms of foundations as well.
As a museum, one of the KPIs, how we measure our success, is the number of the audiences. And one of the problems, because you both mentioned it, is the limited audience, and that we need to broaden it. And then we need to broaden our activities in order to be more inclusive, as Evagoras said.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that we are trying now to be more exterior focusing, in the sense that one of the key elements of the Cypriot art scene is that it's very powerful, and there is great art in the island, which is amazing. But at the same time, I think that audiences had been disengaged at times to come
yes,
to our...
it has been self-referential. Art has been in the past. Sorry if you disagree, but it has. I think so.
No, it definitely has been. But the thing is that with our artisan spaces, one of the reasons that they started blooming, especially in Nicosia that much, was exactly this need to create spaces for ourselves to feel appreciated and seen, because let's face it, there is no Cypriot art museum, so it's one of the biggest issues.
And have the freedom of speech, have
Exactly.
the freedom to create, because in institutions you don't always have the freedom to create what you need, because there's other politics
Exactly,
happening.
but the biggest issue with audiences is that when you don't have a formal arts education, for those who don't know, formal arts education in Cyprus is a very new thing. Universities have recently started providing fine arts courses. So it's one of the things, we didn't have formal arts education, we still don't have an arts museum. So a lot of the responsibility to create good programs falls on the shoulders of the artists around spaces that eventually start functioning like para-institutions. So I think that a lot of the programming choices are also circling back to that. So Evagoras, as a newly found, co-found space, how are you tackling these programming issues, and how do you manage bringing audiences?
I mean, for us, with Panagiotis, the starting point of this was how can we make a programming that reflects our own political needs as citizens, first of all, and then as artists, curators, etc. And this is what we wanted to explore. So it is about also the freedom to navigate certain things in your own terms, to try that out and see how it plays out. So I think what happens when the institutional structure is very limited and very rigid, you are led to an endless reproduction of the same. And this is also political, okay? And I think this is also a choice. So we wanted to navigate something new. So for me, as an agent of the art world, let's say, I don't I don't want to see or deal in these more top-down approaches, because I think that only creates even more sort of problems or very problematic behaviors, let's say. And through grassroots movements or ideas, I think things can change. This is why we also named our space See Contemporary Culture, because we see our area as that of culture and not art in a limited way.
Yeah, and I think this is something you probably share, Katerina, because I think one of the reasons that MeMeraki has been so popular with residencies and people applying from abroad might be the same.
I don't know. I think I'll put it down to my contacts, actually. Because when I first came to Cyprus, I found it very difficult to integrate with the world, to get the proposals. I went for open call the first year, and I got, I think, 2. You know, and I'm thinking, okay, no one knows me, no one knows where I'm come from, what I'm doing, and everything. So then, for the first few, I reached out to my contacts, and I said, come, do this residency. I'll apply for funding in your names. And that's by bringing my contacts from abroad to here. Also, my contacts are not Cypriot or Greek. You know, I don't have that affinity with Greece. I don't share that. I mean, maybe because I'm biracial, but I don't share that. I'm Cypriot. I'm Cypriot. For me, it's like a difference between England and America. They speak the same language, but they're so different. So, and I think the richness of Cyprus is that it's so multicultural, and theoretically speaking, it could be the Singapore of the West, theoretically speaking, if we got our shit together, pardon me. But, you know, but it has a rich history, it has so much to give. We have a lot of talent, as you said. What we don't have is influence from other countries. For those who can't travel, for those who can't go and see a Picasso, there's no space to bring the Picasso. You know what I mean? So things like this is, again, I go back to education. I go back to at least 1 to 2 generations of kids from the age of 5 being aware of art, seeing art on a daily basis, living with it, having a discussion, being part of a conversation as opposed to a monologue or a dialogue, actually, a art conversation. Sorry.
Do we have to see the Picassos, though? Or can we see the...
That was just an example.
Okay.
Any art, yeah.
Because I'm really pro-local production, and there's a lot... Yeah.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. I am pro-local production as well. No, we don't have to see a Picasso. We could see anything, but we need to see a lot in order to make our minds up about something. You know, if I see a lot of the same thing, my opinion is that, you know, so being exposed to different types of art.
It's the education thing that you said before, the culture thing.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna, and then hopefully you get a new generation of collectors and art lovers who actually support the process and the variety instead of the end product, you know, as I said before. So it's, sorry, I've got a bit of ADHD, so I might be going...
No. It's really interesting because when we're discussing this as an issue, these constraints, let's say, that we face, then one might ask, I mean, how can we make then our spaces sustainable? Because if we're only facing constraints, what do we do for sustainability?
It takes a lot of government funding, a lot. And it takes billions. I'm going to say billions. We have to, yeah. So it takes, and someone's got to invest time and money into this, and education. It's the only way it's going to happen. But I mean, it's been proven all around the world. I mean, I think the Guggenheim in Bilbao last year reported growth to the Basque region of 800 million, which is a lot more than what they're getting in funding. So I mean, if we think long term, not the next show, the next big artist, the next discovery, but the nurturing, actually, which is part of it, the nurturing of this from the government, from local government, from the people, then eventually, hopefully, maybe I'm a bit idealistic, it will give back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, sustainability looks like not a question of what we need, but a question of what do I have access to. So if I have access to great talent, great ideas, and sort of a viewpoint and what I want to say, then I will do that to the best of my ability and in a way that is engaging. So then it becomes about, I know what you're saying about the long term, that is a problem. So we started, let's say, a space now with a 5-year plan, but that's the most we can do, let's say, okay. But it's because I feel that if it doesn't continue from that, then there is no more urgency for that to exist, because it is about what you prioritize and what you want to put out there.
Yeah.
I think this, for me, it's important to be very mindful of the work that you put out there in a way.
Yeah, and this is the interesting part about artisan spaces in Cyprus. What we're discussing now, even the mentality that we're currently sharing, it's not always the mentality of artisan spaces that are supposed to be freer or more experimental. I'm not saying that we're not free or experimental enough. This is not my point. But I'm saying that this mentality, this seriousness that we put into this work is what makes most of the artisan spaces or these grassroots initiatives or the NGOs that are functioning right now in Cyprus feel like para-institutions. They don't work against the institutions, because sometimes when we say para-institutions, we think that it's the institutions that work against the common institutional format. This is not the case for Cyprus. In Cyprus, para-institutions function like institutions. They work and they take the responsibility of institutions, because this lack of institutions created this need for the artisan spaces to work like them. So this responsibility that Evagoras is right now discussing is something that is usually shared by institutions. So in the lack of, we are now taking it up on ourselves to take care of. Yeah.
Yes. In the absence of institutions who work with contemporary artists, it's Evagoras and Katerina who come in to play that role. I just have some numbers here. I don't like numbers, but I asked for them this morning. So the EU average of GDP for culture and religion is 1.2, and Cyprus is at 0.6, so half of the average of the EU gross domestic product. But then again, we generate more gross domestic product than all European countries, and we're at 5.4. So basically this means to me, because I'm not a numbers person, but it means that if we played it more politically right, how we do the funding and how much support we get from the state, the scene would be much better, much more complete. So I think it's at a level of political management of what happens. So it's on many levels the problem that we're currently the situation that we're currently dealing with.
I think that one of the issues that we face daily is that we are focusing on exactly these conditions, which are horrible and sometimes and very difficult for us to navigate, but at the same time they are the same reason why we have some of the best art production in Cyprus. This kind of need, this frustration, sometimes leads to great art and great exhibitions.
You're an optimist.
I definitely am, yes. But I think that we have one of the most interesting scenes right now in Europe, and definitely in the Mediterranean. And I think it comes out of this specific need that we need to go out, as Katerina said, and bring in as well, as Katerina said, but at the same time exist in a way that honors our own way of thinking.
That's what, That's what MeMeraki does through its exchange program. We have exchange programs with our residencies in Europe, and what we do is we send local artists there and we bring artists from there here. So I think that helps a lot, this going and coming of knowledge. And hopefully I'd like to do that worldwide, not just Europe.
So you're hoping for routes of more exchange and return?
A lot more, everywhere. Mm-hmm. We're a global world. I mean, as a painter, the best critiques I had in New York were by Korean electronic art artists, you know, which I would never have gone there to solve a problem, but it really added something to my work that I wouldn't have imagined in 100 years, you know. So it is really important to have this openness of exchange, culturally and creatively.
Yeah, Evagoras, I think, Sik, you have begun in that kind of mentality. You're community-based and you do cross-communal projects as well, but focusing in the area as a cross-pollination sort of.
I mean, our programming for next year focuses on the concept of fabulation, which is sort of this idea that if you want to see the truth, you construct a very good lie. And so it looks into what it means to be local, in a way. And we're starting this with, ERA is also participating in this, and we're looking into the Mediterranean region first, and trying to sort of explore what that means, if anything, at the moment. And then there is always in what we do a point of bringing things together. Like all of our programming is intergenerational. So we're looking at bringing together artists from different generations. That is extremely important to us, because what you lose essentially in all these constraints is a sense of continuity. And I think this is something that we come back always to, because people don't necessarily have access to a form of a history or a historiography. Then you feel that you are always starting from scratch, let's say. So this is something we really want to address.
Which is something that you also share, Maria, because Cyprus has been extremely romanticized and, well,
And exoticized.
Exoticized. I didn't want to say exoticized, but it's the reality.
At the CVAR, we have the narrative is, as I like to say, it's who we are. If you watch Mrs. Savvides giving a tour, it's a revelation of who Cypriots are. It's her research into it. It's very close to it's the non-dominant narrative. So it's what I believe. But yeah.
But it's interesting because we're talking about Cyprus being exoticized and romanticized, but at the same time, Cyprus is not a passage. It's not Athens. It's not Paris. So it's.
But we have always been colonized.
Of course, but at the same time, it's a destination. You have to know it to come. So I think this seclusion creates this certain urgency. So I feel that there is a certain hunger to be seen, and there is a certain resistance to perform localness, probably, too literally. So we are very local, but at the same time, we don't want to perform it too much.
I'm going to reply in thoughts that came to my head. So in being very local, I think it's very important, the series that Garage did with the women artists, it's very important what you're doing, mapping out and bringing out showing the contemporary art scene. And it's very important to bring people in. But it's important, though, to go back in art history and understand where the Cypriot art begins, because it begins very recently, only about 100 years ago. They recorded our production. I forgot your question because I'm a bit ADHD as well. but you're following me, thank you. But
I think you're making a point here that when you look at art, to think of who the local is sort of who partakes in this history. Mm-hmm. So we have been doing this work, a lot of people have been doing this work of trying to map out sort of new narratives about this
new readings
history, or new readings about this history and who belongs to it. And my contention is that from the younger generations, no one wants a part of the history that has been written. Yeah. Like, I don't know who is claiming that and why it still exists, but it's not
Our history.
our history. Yeah. So then, but it's a matter of, again, what is being reflected in this idea of the local.
Yeah, and also I think it's also a matter of, yeah, we do need international exposure, don't get me wrong, but how do we deepen even our engagement with the local, and without forgetting that our identities are quite rhizomatic, especially in Cyprus. We have all these different influences, all these different geographies that they partake in, or the way that we exist and the way that we experience the world. So it's a question of how we find this very delicate balance of international exposure, but at the same time engageness with the localness.
And with what you're doing, with the flux of people.
Yeah, I want more, though. I bring 6 to 8 artists. I want to see thousands, you know, to have this exchange, to nurture the local art scene as well. The craft, to contemporize the craft, everything, you know, it just needs more attention and more time, and it is happening. It is happening.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why VIMA and other big-scale initiatives like this are helping the ecosystem is exactly this. They consciously and unconsciously create this exchange and this possibility of coming here and going there, and at the same time without losing the elements that make us who we are. And I think...
Who are we?
A bastard race.
But that's always the question, no? I mean, it's not to answer it. Like, who cares? I mean,
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
That's the end of the philosophical question. Who cares?
I mean, it's just something that we find and we construct as we go along, no? Yeah. So it is about having this willingness, I guess.
Yeah, I think the whole art world of Cyprus is running on willingness, actually. I think it's a few people or a lot of people with a lot of will and a lot of love for what they're doing, just powering through and pushing through these narratives. But at the same time, we can see change. Like, from the day that Phytorio has been established to today, we have seen a lot of development in the art scene. And we keep seeing more and more. And this is a good thing. And also what Maria mentioned about Larnaca or Paphos. If we look back 10 years ago, we wouldn't see any spaces in Larnaca or Paphos. And we're starting to see more spaces.
And if you see, Larnaca is a bit more evolved than Paphos because they're doing the bid for the cultural capital of Europe for the 2030, even though Paphos was cultural capital in 2017, but I think they still need a bit of a push. It's not many infrastructure has been left behind after the fact of the European capital of culture, and that needs a boost.
So if you could change something from the Cypriot infrastructure right now, what would that be then?
Money for everyone, but if I had the power, it would be like to be financially, for everyone to be financially able to do what they want to, what they feel good to produce in this scene.
And education too, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
And one of the things I think it's quite interesting to consider is always mobility as well, like in terms of audience mobility. One of the things that has been done in Limassol, which has been greatly successful, was the art walks.
That's fantastic. I'm a cultural tourist in Limassol. I come from Nicosia always to experience these events. But I think we should concentrate on cultivating the city local audiences before we start talking about the mobility, because you have to start offering free events. So the municipalities need to understand that the artistic production is being paid and it's not being asked for free. So it needs to start being, yes, it's a job. You don't ask for from a musician to come and play for 2 hours for free because it's art.
Then circling back to Phytorio, which is exactly fighting for these things that we consider...
For the status.
yeah, we consider as basics, but at the same time, it's a part of the status.
Yeah, I mean, on a local or international or whatever level, the important thing is to keep in mind that when you talk about art, you're talking about the material conditions of producing art, and there are people who produce this, and these people are the artists. So whatever policy you want to have or pursue, if no one takes care of the base, of the level of nurturing and supporting artists, then nothing will stick in a way.
Yeah, if you don't take care of the one who is producing the art, then there is no art to show.
But this is it. The Cypriot art scene is not born out of policy. It's born out of the people. So I think that if we think of better institutions or better institutional practices, I think we need to reimagine this not as buildings, but more of as constellations of practice that
Yes.
we have discussed right now even, and consider the risk or the care and even the urgency. And if you ask me, we are already doing it, but maybe not in the state level or not maybe in the...
There have been initiatives when the person leaves from an institution because it's very person-oriented, then it all goes, it all like disappears and then it needs to be rebuilt. So it's a matter of having consistency and continuity of some things. And that falls back a bit to the financial issue.
Okay, so maybe let's hold that thought and bring people into it and see how people are considering this. So yeah, we're open to questions by the audience. We have one there.
Hello, thank you for that. I missed some of it, so apologies if I'm going to repeat something, but you pretty much talked about certain things that refer to the lack of strategy from the state, the long-term strategy of the state. And Maria, you just talked about how it comes down to persons being at the right position at the right moment to kind of create strategies within the time frames they have to spend 2, 3, 5 years within an institution. So I'm just wondering how that affects the way that you're programming, you're curating, and how will we manage to overcome that, having in mind that it might mostly be something that will continue. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I find it difficult to think that this will be resolved anytime soon. So there's people in key spots for 5 years, and then they leave, and somebody takes over, and they start from scratch as if nothing happened before that. So yeah, the question is, how do we manage to create long-term strategies ourselves if the state will not manage to do that for us?
If I may, we need to find new models of institutional structural models, and it's up to us working within. But we need to reach out. We need to start trying to. It's a pivotal point. This point that we're going through, it's a pivotal point because I think politics and politicians become more accessible. So it's a pivotal point in the sense that maybe we can have a say and maybe we can have some input in the new strategical programming. I hope.
Sorry, I think for us or for me, it's slightly different. I mean, yes, to everything you've said, but I'm not going to stop making long-term strategies because the government's not going to give me any money. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in what MeMeraki is doing. I think there's a need for it in Cyprus. As an artist, I want to be part of that conversation. So I continuously try and find innovative ways to raise money. For example, I have donations from artists, and then I hold a fundraiser and I sell whatever I sell, or I create an experience in the space and I charge a ticket, something, or I go and I beg for money. Do you want to give to this artist, give to that artist? Or I put from my own pocket. And anybody running a nonprofit institution now and in the future, I think in order to go into this, you have to understand that that might be the case anywhere in the world. Because this year you might get it, next year you might not get it, we might be in war the following year, God knows what's going to happen. So my advice, I guess, for lack of a better word, is always plan long term. Plan for the worst and hope for the best, basically.
But in terms of institutional longevity, I think one of the issues is that our sustainability goes up to a certain point. So we need to have longer strategies that safeguard the mission of everything that we do, even when we're not part of it. Even if I am stepping down from that, you continue that. So this is a bigger issue that again begins with the strategy of the governmental support.
So I create my own grant. I create the MeMeraki grant. No, I'm serious.
No,
I create the MeMeraki grant because or I try to, because that's where I want to go. I want to be the grant giver.
Do a crowdfunding.
Huh?
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding. I don't know what that is. Okay.
Amazing. We have another one? Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I definitely agree with Mrs. Katerina about the long-term strategy. I just want to mention a story about Cannes in France. You all know the Festival of Cannes. And 40 years ago, it was a little, small village there. Nobody knows about Cannes, and just 2 people started there doing this festival. And now we know this is one of the most expensive places, with the villas of the best actors from Hollywood. So, I mean, it could be the way for Cyprus if we have a good contemporary museum with permanent exhibition of contemporary Cypriot and local and foreign artists. And, for example, invite here exhibitions like Salvador Dali, Picasso, I mean the stars from artistic world. We have a lack of such exhibitions in Cyprus, I guess. I'm living in Paphos, I'm an artist, and I started doing my exhibitions 5 years ago and always spending my own budget. Slowly, I got some sponsorship. Slowly, I had the municipality supporting, but still it's most of the exhibitions. I think that the most artists are suffering that if you want to make a beautiful event, not just, a small exhibition like everybody's coming, just quick wine, talk and go. I mean, an event, this was my aim, to make Paphos more beautiful things, and public events and cultural things. But yeah, it's from my own pocket most of all, and the lack of time for organization, and I have family, blah, blah, blah. So I would be happy to see, well, I don't have a question. I'm happy you are talking about doing something for artists here. We really need support. We really need some budgets to make beautiful events, not just a half an hour evening.
Yeah. I think that art tourism can be a solution.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's going to be a sustainable or a long solution.
If the art is good, it will be sustainable.
It's
if
everywhere.
If the art is good, it will be sustainable.
But I think one of the biggest issues about the financing we must consider is also the incentives. Because
I'm popular in Paphos, really, but I have some support. I'm lucky, but I know many artists, they don't have support. They have to pay from, I don't know from where. We want to make good events and good exhibitions, like we're doing, I saw in London, in New York, I traveled a lot, it's always something great. We can do the same things in Cyprus. In Limassol, yes, you do, and That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I think
Thank you.
it's circling back to the point that Maria made about regional audiences, city-wide audiences, and trying to engage with them first and then scaling it up. But at the same time, if you ask me, I think one of the incentives that I was trying to discuss is that when discuss about financing and bringing audiences, we need to consider what is the incentive, because in places where there are museums, people have this education of the arts, you know, the arts become a part of their lives. We are getting there. We're in a really good position right now, and we have people coming into the arts, and as we can see today here, we can see how many people have come to the arts. But at the same time, what is the incentive? So we must help with the creation of the incentives, but also try to remain as locally true and honest as we can, considering our communities. And this is why I'm very happy that there is spaces like SIC, that are community-centered, and we are trying to do both. But with a certain delicacy and care and purpose. Yeah. Well, to wrap it up, because we have exceeded time, thank you all for participating to this panel, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us, and we would love to answer to any other questions in private after this. And thank you again to the organizers and VIMA for this, because it's critical for us to discuss the ecosystem of Cyprus. Anything that begins in Cyprus and happens in Cyprus is impacting the wider ecosystem. So it's a very important moment for us to actually be here and
Agreed.
experience it. So thank you.
Thank you.